let's talk about Professor Layton and the Curious Village, a puzzle adventure game for the Nintendo DS. So the game starts with the titular professor himself and apprentice Luke driving to a town called St. Mystere under request of a letter from a Lady Dahlia. After the death of her husband, his will declares that anyone who solves the mystery of something called the Golden Apple will inherit his entire estate, which must have been a shock for his wife to hear. I mean, she could well go homeless if someone finds the Golden Apple before she does, but no, she doesn't seem to care. Following this curious piece of info, Layton chooses to investigate for nothing more than his own amusement because, yeah, I'm sure any chancellor to university would be happy to give you time off work to investigate this cryptic as hell case. So Layton, upon arriving in St. Mystere, encounters some rather interesting sights. Firstly is a giant decrepit tower right in the middle of the village. Still looks better than the first house I moved into. And secondly are the villagers themselves who are, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, pretty fucking disgusting. I'll give them credit for making unique looking character designs. Granted, you could achieve a similar result by giving a 4-year-old a lump of Play-Doh, but they are unique. So Layton and Luke make their way over to Lady Dahlia's manor to discover more about what's going on. However, it's at that moment that a loud bang is heard outside and scares Lady Dahlia's cat, to which Layton is asked to retrieve it. Of course, Layton accepts because he's a true gentleman and never turns down the request of a lady, bringing us into my favourite chapter of the story, chasing a cat around the village. Remember when I said the story was about an inheritance mystery, untold riches and the whatnot? Why are we trying to chase a cat? The professor does this because, as I said before, he's a gentleman, which, as a character trait, it's fine. I mean, he's got a vaguely British accent and a top hat, so I can't say I was exactly surprised, but writers out there need to learn that there's no such thing as a true gentleman. The only difference between a gentleman and a pervert is that the perverts get caught. The other characters are a little questionable as well. Since this is a mystery adventure game, there's a lot of time devoted to talking to the village people. However, as well as being an adventure game, it's also a puzzle game, and the villagers have a weird tendency to present you with these puzzles. And it's not like other games with puzzles where you need one item to unlock a room to find another item which you combine with another item in a previous room. These are just puzzles, like normal puzzles that you would find in the book section of a thrift shop. I am a bit of a sucker when it comes to puzzles, especially logic-based ones, but this game might go a bit overboard. In the Curious Village, there are 135 puzzles total to solve, and that number is even bigger in the later games. I wouldn't call it overkill, but I heard someone at Mensa attempted suicide after playing this. Not to mention that some of these puzzles can be really infuriating. You got basic shape and number puzzles, which are fine. There's a couple that make you think outside the box, which is nice, but then you got this fucker. The motherfucking tile slide puzzle. I refuse to believe anyone in the world knows how to do these. This one took me over 400 moves to complete, and it isn't even the hardest one. Thankfully, the game does have something of a hint system. Throughout the town, you can find coins to spend on up to 3 hints per puzzle. The first hint will basically tell you nothing, the second hint will give you some actual insight, and the final hint is basically, alright dipshit, here's the solution. Of course, spending hint coins on the sliding puzzles is useless because they take so long to complete, even with a walkthrough, and it doesn't help that all 135 puzzles use only one music track. The track, by the way, is a 50-second loop, and most of these puzzles may take well over 50 seconds to solve. In some cases, they can take up to 23 minutes. Some of these puzzles even have solutions where you have to type in words, but there's no keyboard, and the Nintendo DS wasn't exactly the best writing application, even at the most retarded moments of my life. It has never taken me more than a minute to write the letter E until I had played this game. And like I said, most of these puzzles are given to you by the townspeople. The point is that you have to talk to the non-player characters in order to gain insight on your investigation, but half the time the conversations just go more along the lines of,
"Why yes, Mr. Layton, I would love to help you solve your murder mystery case, but first you must answer me these questions free."
"I'm sorry, but I really don't have time for this."
Question the first. I have a wolf, a sheep, and a cabbage that I must transport over the river. I can only carry one at a time because apparently a cabbage is very heavy and I arbitrarily own a pet wolf.
Excuse me, sir, but time is of the essence here.
You will answer my riddles!
However, your experience of the game may differ depending on which version you play. Something very weird the entire franchise does is have version differences depending on which region of the world you're playing in. And I'm not talking about localization between Japan and the rest of the world. Even between the UK and the USA, they have different puzzles. Remember how I said there were 135 puzzles? Well, actually there's 150, except 15 of those are locked that you can only play them in the American version, and the other 15 are locked to the European version. I have no idea why. It's not like these other 15 are harder to solve depending on where you live. It's just something they did. Another change they made that's a little confusing is the voice of Layton's apprentice Luke. In the UK version, he sounds like a little Cockney child to a pretty extreme degree, but somehow, the Americans made him sound even more racist. But being honest with you, the less I say about America being racist, the better. Now, before I end this video, I do want to have a little discussion back at the story of this game. I will say right now, the rest of this video contains heavy spoilers for this game, so if you don't want to be annoyed, turn this video off now. Have you gone? Because I swear to God, if you get upset by these spoilers and you leave a comment about it, you will be receiving a very sternly worded reply. You gone? Okay. So as the story goes on, little unexplained things start piling up. There's a mystery about Lady Dahlia's memory, a suspicious police inspector, kidnappings, weird cogs, and a whole mess of stuff, all while we're trying to solve the case of the Golden Apple. This is where the game leads us into the final act. We find a key that opens up the menacing looking tower. Inside we find an old man who reveals... everyone in the town is a robot. What? All throughout the story, you get indication that something is going on, but it's not until this moment you realize it's of such a stupid magnitude. For a game based around logic, you would think there might be a slightly more sensible conclusion. So as much as the story is stupid and the puzzles get a bit annoying, I have a huge soft spot for this series. It may have strung me along, but heck, it was fun while it lasted. If you enjoyed puzzles and you could look past the pretty bullshit endings, then you should really try out this series. I meanwhile have my own things to do. Come on, just move the fucking... Oh, come on, for fuck's sake, how do you work?